This week on the show, we have a conversation with writer, photographer, mother, and certified life coach, Kristine Casart. She's recently published a very important book called The Unconventional Addict, a guide to healing, transformation, and living with purpose, which explores her own life's journey of personal growth while also inviting others to look deeply into their own lives and uncover their own hidden strength. As we will discuss deeper on the episode, the unconventional addict is someone who doesn't check off all the boxes of what we assume would be a quote-unquote typical addict. But as you'll soon learn through Kristine's story, you don't have to match the typical addict nor hit a hard rock bottom to set yourself free of dysfunctional relationships with not only substances, but with people. Addiction is a symptom of something that's deeper happening within. And Kristine's story and her life's work guides people to reconnect with themselves and break free from limitations and reignite that spark within. Highlights from this episode: how Kristine realized her dreams of becoming an author, the development of her shadowy, reckless alter ego, Samantha, during moments of trauma and dissociation in childhood. We talk about our shared experiences with addiction to suffering and community resources for people ready for recovery and for loved ones involved. We touch on this a few times on the show, but it's so important I'm going to say it here too. If you are somebody who is struggling with addiction or the loved one of someone who is struggling, because it's a disease that involves everybody who's in the closest stratosphere as well as outside of that stratosphere. So if you are that person, please know that you're not alone. I recently went through this myself, and a huge feature of it was isolation. There was just so much shame, and I was exhausted from being in constant survival mode. It was the perfect storm of losing friendships during that time, where I eventually didn't want to let anybody know what was really happening because for a lot of reasons. But the moment that I decided to reach out to my mom and look for help, look for a community and meetings for myself, was the moment that I broke that cycle of suffering. And you can do it too. There's always a way. We always will find a way. I know it's easy to feel stuck in that loop. So if that's you, Kristine mentioned, you feel free to reach out to her. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm always here to talk and to listen especially. And I have in the show notes all of those resources that we mentioned in the show. So those are also great options as well. And this episode here is a resource. So share this with a loved one, share this with somebody who will resonate with this message and who maybe will find a sense of liberation within this message. Show notes, you know where to find us, and I hope you enjoy this show. Welcome to the School of Whispers podcast. This is your host, Stephanie. I'm a licensed acupuncture physician and herbalist with a background in psychology, health sciences, and exercise physiology. Within my own spiritual awakening, I found myself learning pivotal lessons when I got myself to be in silence. Within that silence, the whispers came through. This is my sacred space of vulnerable storytelling where my guests and I share about the magic that comes from a life of following these whispers. I'm grateful you made it here, and I hope this show inspires you to live a life of following your own whispers. Let's get into the show. All right, Kristine, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here to learn all about you. And I would love to give you the space to introduce yourself and share what you stand for.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited and just so grateful to be here with you today. I, well, what should I say about myself? I am now a published author. I never thought I would say that. And my book, The Unconventional Addict, was just released on February 7th, and it feels like it was a lifetime in the making. It simultaneously feels that the book has always been here, just not in physical form up until just a few weeks ago. And it also feels really surreal. And my heart is just so full of gratitude for everybody that helped me because there is no way that I could have done that alone. So, yes, I'm an author, I am a photographer, and I am a life coach. And I live here in Sarasota, Florida, with my three kids and my somewhat overprotective Chihuahua. And I am originally from Sweden, but I love it here, and especially this time of year. Oh my goodness. February in the northern climates where I've lived felt like it lasted a lifetime. So I'm so grateful I answered the calling and moved here.
Isn't it funny how in Florida these are the quickest months? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I would love to hear before we really dive in, what is it that you feel that you stand for as a soul and as a human?
I stand for releasing shame,
Mm.
being authentically you, that it's never too late to change your path.
Mm.
I stand for all of us being unique and also loved, and that we get to show up completely without fear. And I do feel that, like, the opposite to addiction is not always just sobriety, it's community and connection and reaching out for help and knowing that we're not alone. And no matter what you have done, I'm sure there's somebody that's done it too, or maybe even worse. And the committee in our minds are so loud. So sometimes we don't think that we can talk about ourselves. But I have news for you. That committee often lies. And when you start realizing that, when you start sharing your truth, and yeah, we're not alone.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Hmm.
That was, whew. Yeah, it was beautiful. Um, so did you always dream of becoming an author?
I, yes, ever since I was little, I loved to write stories and to tell stories.
Did you know
I
that you
do,
were going to tell your story?
I don't think that seed was really planted until I was in my 20s. And I had done all the things that you were supposed to do. I had gone through school, high school, finished college, and I had landed my dream job within quotation marks. And life was supposed to begin. And I'm like, this can't be it. This cannot be it. And I write about this in the book, just as pull, as longing for something more. But I didn't know how to get it or what to do, and everything felt so scary. But when I did take that leap, I ended up quitting my job and I traveled with a friend of mine for 6 months. And it was in doing that that I'm like, okay, there's a story here. I want to share with others that you can get out, like you can get off the conveyor belt, and that it's amazing over here. So I tried, I would say for the last 20 years, I've sat down in front of many computers trying to tell my story. And it wasn't really until I started reading and working through the artist way about 6 years ago that I really started seeing myself as a writer. and seeing how much I loved it. And the stories just kept pouring out of me every time I sat down. But I had this kind of, I had a vision of what a writer is supposed to look like. So I tried to fit into that box again, that you have to sit in front of your computer, you set a time, and then you write. And if you don't do it from, 9 till 5, you're not a writer. But what I found that really worked for me was going out into nature, bringing my phone. So most of my book was written in the notes app in my
Mm.
phone.
I'm writing a book right now, and who knows? Who knows if it'll. No, I think that the goal is to just like no matter what, and no matter if it's successful or whatever, I just want to share it. And my favorite time to write is when I'm on the elliptical at the gym, and I just pull out my phone and I just start writing. And that's when I like when I'm walking, that's when I'm the most in flow and inspired to put it all down. Before we get more into the unconventional addict, I would love to hear what are a few qualities within yourself that you felt like that it took to jump off the conveyor belt, whether it was something already inside of you or something that you really had to foster or something that you just woke up one day and were like, okay, that's what it takes.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good question. What I've noticed and what I'm learning is that I have a very strong force in me that I would say is probably my addictive personality. Like I call her Samantha. She has like no fear, right? And she was in a way born from trauma um, to protect me. And she's done a really good job. So I think in a way, she is the reason that I left to begin with. Just that she's like a pro extrovert. She doesn't really give a shit, excuse my language, what other people think. And she knows that there's more out there. And before I started doing any of my healing and recovery, a lot of the ways that she would go on adventures was a lot around alcohol and getting drunk or partying all night and then still finding a new open bar or, oh, there's this party out in the jungle. Let's go. Like, no fear. Yeah, we should totally go to this after party. I don't know you, but now we're friends because we just met. But I think that having that really strong personality inside, I think is so powerful. So I've done a lot of reflecting on that. Like, did I run away from Sweden? Because I left Sweden then at 24, 25, and I haven't really ever moved back there for a year, but not really for an extended period of time. But I'm not sure if I ran away or if I found home. And I'm still kind of sitting with that because I can feel almost jealous of people that can just be happy wherever they are. Because in a way, for me, I was trying to run away from something that was going on in here. Like there was so much, something wasn't right, but I couldn't really put my finger on it. So it felt better to just keep moving. And traveling had always been something that I loved to do. And Swedish winter was like killing my soul, it felt like. But I am so grateful for that part of me that took that leap because otherwise I wouldn't be here in Florida right now. I wouldn't have met my husband and I wouldn't have my three amazing children. So I'm in awe of her. And the more I get to know that part of me, the less scared I am because we don't get ourselves in as much trouble anymore.
So it sounds like Samantha was a shadow self, but she was your path to your higher self. Like imagine that. Imagine that the shadow brings you there, but she sounds like a fun shadow. That's for sure. So would you say it was like this quality of, I guess, embracing like a sense of reckless abandon for that moment to just dive in? Like, did you ever have moments of looking back and you were like, what the hell am I doing? What am I doing? Or were you in that time in your life where you just deep in the Samantha consciousness?
Oh, I love that. I think at the time I didn't do a lot of self-reflection, but
Mm,
now in hindsight, I can see it so clearly. Um, yeah, she basically took over. It's like one of those things that she just now I feel like we can more work together. But
hmm.
it Another one of my coping mechanisms I had growing up was kind of disassociation. And I felt like she would just kind of come in and take over the control room and just like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Because
Yeah.
I would find myself in depression, like this job that I got right out of college. It was soul numbing. Like it was, I'm like, I could not believe that this is what I had worked so hard for. I mean, obviously there were other jobs, but I could, in my way of thinking, which at the time and still to this day is very black and white. I'm like, this is the job. This is Sweden. This is what I would do here. No, I don't want to do that. So then, what happened that first year too is that I went on vacation with some friends to the Dominican Republic.
Mm.
And I was standing there on the beach, and this was in February too. I love that it's February now. And I proclaimed to the world, I am moving here when I retire. Because it wasn't even on my radar that you didn't follow the path.
Mhm.
You couldn't get off the conveyor belt. So this is what you did. And then I came back to Sweden and I found out that my grandfather had passed away. And that really triggered something in me. And I think from then on, Samantha took over. And within just a couple of months, she had like we quit the job. This was like in the beginning of the internet era. So she had found like a semi-trustworthy apartment in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, signed up for Spanish lessons to make it sound more legit. And oh, also enrolled one of my friends. So the two of us left. And the idea was we were going to travel the world, but we quickly ran out of money. So we didn't get very far. But since we had been to the Dominican Republic, we had made some friends there, and they said, come stay with us. So we took them up on that and then ended up staying with them for 5 months.
That's amazing.
Um,
I love hearing that.
yeah, I feel like there's so many say yes and it's like saying yes to life. It was obviously an invitation from the universe and and also being brave enough to say yes if that is your calling, you know? Oh, and I knew I could not live. Sweden was not for me. I feel like I was born in the wrong country. It was just such a strong calling. Like, I'm not supposed to be here. And we would travel quite a bit, I did growing up. And every time I went someplace where there were palm trees, I was just in awe. I just literally wanted to just stand there and hug them and
Oh.
never leave. Like, this is home.
Mm.
I want to live where the palm trees grow. And now I did.
Yeah. So now that we had this little background on, how you came here and on Samantha, let's get into can you please define for us what an unconventional addict is?
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Well, basically, the way I see it is that an unconventional addict is a person who doesn't check all the boxes of traditional addiction. And I would seriously, I know it sounds so lame, but I will Google, am I an alcoholic? Pretty much every Sunday. And then I wouldn't check all the boxes. So then I felt that I couldn't reach out for help. But really, I checked a lot of the boxes, but not all of them. So I think Samantha was there just like, oh, you don't drink alone and you don't drink every day. But it felt so lonely And also, another thought I had was that how could I take up a spot at an AA meeting? Like, I had this image of what an addict looked like. And in my mind, they were homeless and living under a bridge somewhere. And my addiction didn't look like that. Mine looked like, oh, it's Friday. It's been a really hard week. I'm gonna go have just one drink. Samantha doesn't do singles. It was never just one drink. It was one, two, I don't know how many. Blackout. Don't know how I got home. Like all since college has kind of been like that. And then I will wake up the next day and feel so bad, swear off drinking forever and ever, never doing it ever again until the next weekend, because then I felt good again and I'd forgotten. But then you start looking at what everybody else is doing. And where my circle, this is what we did. Most of them, however, could have maybe 4 or 5 drinks and then they would start feeling full or sick and go home. But I just kind of bypassed that and I would uh, make myself throw up and then go order Red Bull and vodka, and then I could keep partying because Samantha would be like, "You're gonna feel like shit tomorrow anyway. You might as well embrace it." And then what I realized as well is that for me, codependency was kind of underneath that, people pleasing. This is how we communed. This is how we interacted, me and my friends. So what was people gonna think if I didn't go out? I don't want to be rude, but I knew I could never have just one drink. And don't want to be lame. Like the voices in my head, oh my goodness, they're so
Mhm.
strong.
I think of the archetype of the girl who's always game, who's always down for anything. And I was
Mhm.
never that, but I had one of my closest friends. Here she kind of fits your exact description. And she was
Mm.
oh, and everyone was always like, "Oh, well, she's always game for it. We love it having her along. She's always game, she's always down." But before she would go, like or after, there was so much anxiety. And I would just be like, "Why? Like what's the point?" But I guess yeah, like for a lot of us the happy places when others are around us smiling when we feel like the lighthouse. And that's a ticket towards losing yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing too. Whenever I would start talking about, I think I have a problem, people will be like, no, 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 you're overreacting because like if you have a problem, then I have a problem. You can't start calling everybody alcoholics, what a mess.
Right?
Um, And everybody loved this version of me, like this fun Samantha dancing on the bar, singing karaoke, even though I can't sing for, doesn't matter. There were free drinks. It was this bar in the Canary Islands where um, if you sang, you get a free drink. So of course I was going to do that. ABBA, Dancing Queen.
Oh, of course.
Ah, oh my goodness. Yeah, so that was really fun. I'm sure I don't remember it, but I bet everybody thought it was fun. But like if I would stop drinking, what else was there? That's what we did. Don't be boring. Yeah. What else is there to do? A lot, it turns out.
And I think last year was my year of struggling with really close loved one who struggled with addiction. And for the longest time, it was denial, just like what you said. Oh, I don't look like an addict. I don't look like an alcoholic or a drug addict. So that what they're going through, I'm way above that. I can overcome this. But at one point, I went to a meeting with them. They had just admitted to a relapse, and I was like, "We're going to a meeting. I'm going with you." And I sat there and hearing the heroin addict talk about his win of 30 days sober, and in hearing just all these people share their story, I looked at my loved one and I said, "You are no different from them. You're just as human as they are. Addiction is addiction. It doesn't matter what you're using. if it's stealing a piece of your soul and there's a part of you that feels deeply unaligned with it and anxious and all and betraying yourself and your loved one, then that's a problem. Like that's an addiction. And it's I think that I love that you're sharing this your story because I think a lot of people need to understand that one, you don't have to check all the boxes, and two, it doesn't have to, you don't have to hit rock bottom to get help.
Yes, 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 yes. That's really what became so apparent to me because I got to work as the photographer on a book called Soul to Sisterhood. And it's this beautiful book where the author interviews women about their stories. And there were a number of them that were talking about addiction. And I really wanted to, at first, I wanted to hush them. I wanted to be like, shh, we don't talk about this. Like, this is something that, this is going to be written in a book and then published. Like, shh, what are the neighbors going to think, kind of thing. And then I was also like, wow, they are so brave. They are so courageous talking about this. This is going to help so many people. And I could see that their rock bottoms have been so much lower than mine now. But I could also see that if I continue drinking, that's where I would go. So I feel what I'm hoping with this book is that we can stop the roller coaster early and get off. Like this is no longer serving me. There's other ways we can live and we don't have to numb. And then look at the reason why we were numbing to begin with and maybe start doing the work.
That can be very scary, though. I think there's some of us who we feel like we have no other choice but to do that. And then there's a lot of us who are absolutely terrified to look in the mirror and see who's really looking back. What would you say to somebody who is in that place right now, who truly, truly looking in the mirror, looking in their own eyes and seeing the pain that's there that they've been masking and holding back and they're using that substance, whatever it may be, because, there's a lot more than alcohol and drugs out there that, we use to hide. What would you feel called to say to them?
Well, first of all, I would say that it takes so much courage to just acknowledge that inner knowing that something is not right
Mm.
and that we get to build back the trust to our inner selves and listen that because at that point usually in our life that voice is so little and it's hard to hear it so you really have to kind of stop but you know that something's not right and what I would do which I wish I would have done is reach out for help because there's so many people out there that have been through something similar might even be still. And it may not have to be AA or NA, but I go to CODA meetings now, Codependence Anonymous,
Mm.
and they're online. So there are, I would say, there are at least like 2 dozen meetings worldwide a day, every day. Like right now, you can go on and probably find at least 2 meetings that will start within the next half hour. And if you don't like one meeting, go to another. Like they say, go to at least like 6 different meetings before you write it off. And then I would also look around in your community. Is there another friend that might be going through something similar? Can you just start sharing a little bit of what you feel? And then observe the response because they may not be ready to hear that. So then go talk to somebody else. But in between that, give yourself room to pat yourself on the back for being super brave and reaching out and just fill your own cup with meditation, sleep, 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 sleep. That is like self-care 101 for me, sleep. And journaling. Journal. Whenever I journal, I get so much insight for what to do next, like little inspired action. So I would do that. And then, yeah, just know you're not alone. No, you're not alone. And for me, like I think now is almost fun to discover what Samantha's up to now. Like, because it's not alcohol anymore. I don't smoke anymore. We did that for 20 years. But then we moved over to working out. And then now I'm still to this day sober from alcohol. It'll be 11 years this summer. And now I'm overworking. And it looks really good on paper, you know. But instead of getting angry with myself, I'm more just like, ha, clever. You're so
I really
smart.
love that.
Didn't even see you doing that. Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that because it's the human condition. I kind of unrelated, but I'm an acupuncturist and I was treating somebody yesterday who's 80, he's turning 86 this year, 87, and he looks amazing. And he's golfing, playing tennis, he's doing all the things, and his hips always kind of bother him. And he was like, "Yeah, it's so annoying because everything else is perfect. Like I really am in such good health, except for this one thing, my hips." And I was like, "Well, guess you have to admit to yourself you're human. We all have a cross to bear at some point." And for myself, really learning, there's these things called, it's called the five remembrances. Is like this Buddhist monk, he wanted to eradicate suffering. And he said, okay, if we can remember and really hold true to these five things, then we'll no longer suffer. And I've talked about it on the show. So if you want, I can get into it. But the one that really stood out to me was I am human and I am subject to experience ill health. But to relate that to what you're saying is I am human, I have a shadow, and I am subject to that shadow taking me somewhere, taking me down a path that, my mind may be like, "Oh, that's bad. That's not good. We're doing a bad job. Oh no." Or we could see it as that, or we could see it as, "Oh, there's that piece of the journey." "Oh, there's overwork. Oh, there's exhaustion, Oh, there's shame," rather than getting so upset about it.
For sure. Yeah, I feel like these patterns and behaviors have served us for a long time too. And I really want us all to just give ourselves a pat on the back for making it this far in Earth School. It's
Yeah.
not easy. I call them like adult pacifiers that we have used along the way. Like, way to go. Like, there's no shame in that. We all pacify in different ways. For me too, it's been food. And I can see that now I'm going through a divorce that I've used food. And there's no shame in that. I can be like, okay, today was hard. How do I want to treat myself today? Oh, well, today I might have some vegan ice cream. But then the difference is I will then feel after how I'm feeling, also being aware the next morning how that changed how I'm feeling, and then be like, okay, is this something I want to do again?
Yeah.
Yes or no? Just being aware that I feel like that is like key and not judging, but you can't change anything unless you're aware.
Yeah, unless you observe. Last year, I really, really came to terms with realizing I had an addiction to smoking weed.
Mm,
Yeah, and so I stopped smoking weed for about like 7 or 8 months, and then do you know Ram Dass?
a little, yeah.
Yeah, so anyone who's not familiar, he was in the 60s. He was a Harvard professor in psychology, and he hung out with guys like Timothy Leary, who were like the pioneers of psychedelics, and he's definitely one of them. He eventually got kicked out of, well, he had an awakening through doing mushrooms, and then got kicked out of Harvard and went to India to find out like what is this all about. And he's just a man, he's no longer here in this realm, but he's here. And he's just pure love. Like I'm going through a divorce myself and I say like he's my boyfriend. Like if I feel unsafe or uncomfortable, I'll listen to his voice and I'm like, ah, all right, I remember why I'm here. Anyways, he talks about addiction and he talks about how what if you just observed yourself while you did the thing that you were quote unquote addicted to? And the way he spoke about it had me question, like, okay, is my worth based off of how long I've gone without smoking? Because I get a little bit extreme on things. And I was like, oh, yeah, if I smoked, I would lose a huge piece of my worth here because I told myself I'd go a year. I told myself I'd do these things. So I was like, shit. All right, let's do it. Let's smoke some weed. Let's see how our perspective on our sense of worth changes, and let's observe yourself while you're doing it. And so here and there I would smoke weed. And then there were a few moments where I was like, I actually don't, I wish I didn't. I actually wish I didn't. And I was like, ooh, let's observe that rather than get upset about being like, oh my God, you smoked weed and now you regret it. Like, why do you wish? Like, just observe how you feel and your thoughts and feelings. And now it's like, I gotta be honest, like, the mental addiction is still there. It's still on my mind. It's still like, let's go try to find some because working out, we've always liked working out. Hi, let's go find some. And I'm like, ooh, that's a thought there. That's the addiction thought. Well, let's play it out. If I smoked, how would I feel? Let's play out the whole scenario. And then I think, oh, I would get to a point where I'd be like, oh man, I wish I didn't. I'm like, okay, so then let's feel that feeling. Let's feel that regret. Because I realize it's like I have this pull towards I get off on feeling regret. And it's just been such a fun tool and a fun way to just figure out like what's really under that quote unquote addiction. Because it really is a symptom.
Oh my goodness, I love that. I realized the same thing for me too. I was like addicted to suffering because I didn't think that I
Yes.
was worth anything. So if nobody else loved me, how could I love myself? So I had a therapist tell me that I spend a lot of time on Suffering Island, like Pity Me Island. We were,
Wow.
and it was so familiar because I've like been there so much. Like depression would take me there all the time, but it also sucks. There's like the little life spark just so dim, but it feels so comfortable in the uncomfortable because it's familiar. But I don't want to go there anymore. I'm like done. I know the ins and outs of that. And this is a different tangent, but I love what you're saying about playing out the tape because when I quit smoking, which I swore I was never gonna, life was not worth living without smoking. I tried everything, hypnosis. I'm like, she had me picture sitting on the deck, back deck in the sun. And I'm like, what's the point? Why would I want to sit there and not smoke? Like cigarettes were like my best friend. Uh, I just, I'm like, this is gonna, yeah, I knew it was gonna kill me, but at least I would have the cigarettes there to hold my hand. It was just very interesting. And then I started reading The Easy Way to Quit by Alan Carr. And this was years later once I had kids and I realized that, hey, no, actually, I don't want to die. I want to be here. I want to see, if they want to have kids, if they want to get married, I want to be here for them through all the ups and downs of life. So I started looking into ways to quit. And one of the things that you were supposed to do is observe yourself in your addiction. So I started when I was 15, thinking I was like the coolest, right? And it was like something we did as a community with my friends. Well, I woke up, that's kind of what it felt like. 20 years later, I'm standing in this alley next to a dumpster in Chicago, dead of winter, freezing my butt off with my cigarette, the fingers shaking because it's so cold. It's like snow raining, ice. And I can see like my friends are inside, like still having dinner, but I had to go outside to be with my cigarette. And then I knew that I would go back inside, and within an hour, I needed more. Like I could just like start clearly seeing the pattern. And I'm like, no, this is not cool. This is not fun anymore. And this is not part of like everybody else got off the train and I didn't even notice. Uh, yeah, that was just an awakening.
Nicotine is such a hard one to quit. I've never experienced it, but I've observed it. I've had quite a few people come for treatment for acupuncture to help with that addiction, and it is pervasive and it is so tough. So kudos to, I mean, it's one thing, to recognize with the alcoholism, but like to really quit nicotine, I don't know, for me, that's like gladiator shit. That's really, really hard. I've done a lot of research on nicotine, and it's good good work. So proud of you.
Yeah, it was hard. And I would stop every time I get pregnant because I would do things for others, which, this little baby in my
Right. That
belly,
was easy.
that was easy. And then as soon as they moved out, I remember, especially after my son was born, he's my second, that I could feel like the addiction monster, like I could almost feel like the claws crawling up over my shoulder and just be like, ha ha, I'm back. I didn't even have a chance. I did not have a chance because a friend of mine had brought over cigarettes. And so that one, then within that same day, I was back to 20 a day, just like that, from being just fine for what I think it was like 10 months at that point. Yeah, I didn't even stand a chance. Like I kind of pictured it like this like spidery black just smoke, just like yeah, that's it.
It's interesting you saying, like, acknowledging that it was easy to do it for someone else,
Mm.
but we see addiction and addicts as very selfish.
Mm.
Is that the, being on both sides of the spectrum, like, would you say that's the case? Like, I know there is a level of selfishness because I was kind of at the receiving end of the selfish deeds that really screwed me, but like, I don't know. I don't know. The what you said there just made me kind of question that.
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, I thought that I was being as unselfish as I possibly could be because that's what everybody else was doing, and I didn't want to be a party pooper or make anybody else
Right.
feel bad. I
Interesting.
actually, I actually have as an adult learned that a friend of mine in high school when we would get together and party that she didn't drink. But to me, that wasn't even an option. It wasn't on my radar. Like, this is what we do. And I didn't want to stand out. So for me, it felt like the opposite. I almost thought that she was being selfish.
Yeah.
Not like we have worked so hard to get this alcohol and now we've got this house. And why are you not drinking? Like, this is what we're doing. Be a part of the community. Um, yeah, I think that in my mind, at the time felt like I was doing other people a favor by joining the party. Yeah.
What's coming to mind is it's almost a selfless intention,
Mhm.
but the root and the truth is very selfish because, it's based off of a perception of yourself. And when we act from that place of I'm afraid to feel this about myself or to acknowledge this about myself, then, that's self-preservation. But yeah, it's really interesting because my loved one, who really like it just took over my life last year, the addiction. That was something that often came up was I don't want to go hang out with these friends because we're gonna start drinking, and I really don't want to drink. And I'd say, well, then don't. I can't do that. I'm like, okay, well then have like one or two beers. No, 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 no. That's not how we do things. And yeah, it was almost like this great concern for the friends and how their time would be. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's so funny. It's so funny, the mental gymnastics.
Oh, mental gymnastics. Yes, I love that. Yeah, and what I think too is that once we realize that we do have a problem and we're not acting on it and not reaching out for help, I think maybe this selfishness can come in there. Like a little bit, like what I'm trying to get at is like the addiction may not be our fault, but it is our responsibility.
Ooh, Can you elaborate a little bit more just in case there's anyone hearing that that's not quite sure what that means?
Well, the reason that my Samantha was born was because I was the victim of abuse in my childhood. I don't feel like that was my fault. It was not my fault. And Samantha came in to rescue me from that and trying to numb me from feeling. I had a really hard time in school, had a hard time making friends. So the addiction just came in to help me not feel because I was also not taught that feeling was part of being human or how to deal with strong emotions. The idea was you're not too happy or not too sad. You just don't take up too much space. So if you're not taught how, not how to feel, because as a human, we will feel. But if you're not taught that feelings are part of being alive, and then what happened if you have trauma in your childhood and you kind of sever that bond to your intuition and to feeling that you're worth being loved. I also wasn't believed by my parents, which I think was like even harder. So that all that was not my fault. And I could see that for the longest time that my coping mechanisms did serve me and they weren't hurting anybody. But then when it kind of escalates and the way I would drink in college, I had a friend that had me go see somebody because I had gotten extremely drunk. And even this person was saying that no, you don't check all the boxes, so you're fine. Just don't drink so much. Well, thanks for nothing. But it is your responsibility because I did have that inkling inside that even though I keep hearing that I'm fine and that I'm overreacting and everybody drinks like you do, I knew that the little voice in me was like, no, this isn't working anymore. And so I feel like it's our responsibility to put the microphone close to this little voice and be like, hey, okay, I'm listening, but this is scary, but what are you trying to say? Is there another way? Because right now I don't see another way. So please help me meet with people that can show me a different way. Please show me what the right next step is. But we have to be courageous enough to take that step because I feel that the universe are gonna send the helpers, but
Yeah.
we have to be able to be courageous enough to say like, hey, I need help. I'm here because they will leave, go help somebody else. And then we can sit there on Woo is Me Island and feel sorry for ourselves.
That's an addiction in itself, man.
Yes.
Oh, I there's this book called Existential Kink, and basically what the author talks about is if God is everything, God is in everything, and God is everyone, then God is a kinky motherfucker. Like, God has created a hell of a lot of suffering. And she really dove deeper and deeper into that with tantric practices and just kind of came to realize that she got like kind of like what I said earlier, she got off on feeling the woe is me, the guilt and the shame. And it's like, why? Why do we get off on feeling that? And if you just explore it deeper and deeper, it's like, well, physiologically, it's arousal. It's arousal. It's all just physiological somatic input. And when you go deeper and deeper, it's like it's just this whole journey of like, why is it that we are constantly getting little microdosing hits of the things we quote unquote don't want to feel? And what if we acknowledge actually I get off. My soul is like, yes, give that sensation to me now again and again. It's like, okay, well, if you can macrodose it, then your soul's like, well, I'm satisfied. Moving on. And I've been practicing that for especially within my divorce, and it's been magical. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
There was one question I had in mind before. Oh, I wanted to highlight, you've said a few times community.
Mm.
That was when we were in the depths of my loved one's addiction last year. We really hid a lot of it to ourselves. We kept a lot of it to ourselves. There was a shame aspect. There was a lot of aspects to it. And finally, when we were like, okay, we have to let our community in. We have to let people know, especially like letting my mom know, for me at least, was a huge turning point. And I think that it's just overlooked and overwritten when it comes to struggles, but specifically addiction. So, can you please just share a little bit more about that for someone to hear again, especially like my prayers that somebody who is the unconventional addict is listening to this, and this may be like water for that person who's been traveling through the desert for years. So, yeah, so can we pour a little water of community for them?
Yes. And also, what I want to say regarding that is that if shame in this moment is too strong, a lot of these online meetings, you can be a fly on the wall. You don't have to put your name. You can choose a different name. You don't have to turn on your video, or you don't have to share with your voice. So that is one way. If it feels like shame is holding you back for whatever reason, any of those meetings that feels in alignment, Coda, AA, Al-Anon, there's so many meetings. There's also something called Sober Mom Squad. There's so many online communities. We Are the Luckiest, I think, is another community. But you can just go on to these meetings and be anonymous. So that is one thing. And I feel also like a lot of my recovery wasn't necessarily in sobriety communities. Like I joined women's circles here in Sarasota, and that helped me build up my self-esteem and just meet other like-minded women who maybe didn't see themselves as addicts. And at the time, I didn't either because I had been sober for 5 years, which I did on my own. I do not recommend that. But just finding your community, it can be like a yoga community, meditation, whatever you enjoy doing. Just like go out and find other people that like you too. Like it basically find out who you are. And I know that's hard because at one point, being the mom of 3 kids, I could tell you exactly what my kids like to do. I knew exactly what kind of food they liked. And I found myself at the grocery store at one point and I'm like, I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want. I could pick out all my kids' favorite things in here, but I don't know. Do I like bananas still? I don't know. And then we get to know ourselves and our inner child. I also think it's a good idea to remember what you used to do and used to enjoy as a kid. Like for me, it was going to the beach or going biking, and I just started picking up pickleball. So there's so many things that you can do. It doesn't have to be like I now you need to go to an AA meeting, but community can come in so many different shapes and forms, and it can just be calling a friend that you haven't spoken to. Usually you will have a calling like, oh, this person's name keeps coming up. Well, maybe give them a call, see what's new.
I
Yeah.
love that. That's such a good and it's a good reminder for the addict and the loved one of the addict. Or I don't know, I don't like saying the addict, but the person struggling with addiction as well as a loved one who's right there with them is try to find some fun. Last year was so not fun. I barely had any fun at all. And this year I'm like, I gotta have fun. And it's so easy for me to go like we in Tantra they call it the right-handed path, the path of discipline. That's my easy place to go and to just like this that and I forget, like you said, like I really did forget last year, like what is it that I enjoy, like what is it that's fun. So it's such a important and easy reminder.
Yeah, the artist way has been life changing for me as well, to the point where I'm actually leading. circles now, which was very uncomfortable for introvert Kristine to start doing, but that's how much I love it. Like it really is like a recovery book for everybody. It helps you find your inner child and start trusting yourself again and start knowing that you matter.
Bonnie told me that she joined that group with you, and I'm so excited to check in with her to see how that's going. I actually this when she told me she was joining your group, that was the second person who told me to read The Artist's Way. So I'm listening to it on Audible right now. Yeah.
I love Audible. That's I usually listen to on my walks, and I
Yeah.
always get something new. Like this morning, knowing that I had this interview coming up, I was really nervous. And also just like, why am I doing so many stretchy things? Like I should be more normal. Like I need to go get myself my 9 to 5 accounting job, or they are hiring a target. Maybe that's what I should do. That would be less uncomfortable. And then like the chapter I was listening to is like, wow, at this point in your recovery, you might start saying yes to things and then wondering why did I say yes? And I'm like, yeah, I'm so scared. But then also being like, heck yeah, I get to say yes to some really cool things. I'm
Hmm.
so excited and just feeling uncomfortable and feeling excited and allowing myself to feel in general and being aware that I'm feeling is also new and amazing and such a gift.
Ah, it's the arousal of being alive.
Yes.
Yeah, it's good to feel awake and engaged. And like I see fear as a blueprint of like follow that fear. And it's usually what we came here to do to fill in all the little lessons that we're yet to learn.
Mm. Oh, I love that.
Mm.
Mm.
Kristine, this has been so wonderful. I have two closing questions for you.
Yeah.
So, so I'm a Chinese medicine practitioner, and a big thing for us is food therapy. So I've kind of just taken that and run with it. And on the podcast, I love to ask everyone, what is a food? Whether that's an herb, a supplement, a meal, it can be something for your health, it can be something for your soul. But what is a food that's been really nourishing for you on your path?
Mm. That is such a good question. And food really has been so instrumental in my recovery. At one point, we found out that my son was allergic to dairy. So this was about 12 years ago now. And I started learning everything about it. I didn't think that you could live without dairy. Like now in hindsight, I can see that that was like an addiction as well. And I
It
grew
is.
up in Sweden and the codependent and people pleaser, and he's like, I'm saying no to my ancestors. And this big story. But anyway, it all led to us going vegan, which I never ever thought that we would. And after that, actually finding veganism and starting to listen to my inner child, I started becoming vegan more for the compassion, not so much around the health. But then every meal just became a joy. Because
Mm.
up until that point, I don't think I had ever had a vegan meal. So I didn't think that there was anything left to eat. I'm like, what do vegans eat? Lettuce? Like, I don't like lettuce. Like seriously, when we got this diagnosis, I thought my life was over. And then we started experimenting and realizing that it wasn't necessarily the meat that made the chili taste good. It was like all the flavor, like the spices and the garlic, and it wasn't the meat that made the chili taste good. It was the spices and the garlic and the tomato and the beans and then I quit smoking around that same time. So I feel like I got my taste buds back.
Uh,
So then everything just started tasting amazing. So it could be anything from like a peach to you almost like the ratatouille moment, where just like, oh. And
yeah.
then I found out there were like vegan cheeses, and every time we would find a new way of doing things, like you can make lox out of carrots. I'm like mind blown because I loved all those flavors, but I never liked eating. fish. So for me, like that whole experience really was life changing for me. And I'm still kind of flying high on being vegan and for me living with compassion because we went to like farm sanctuaries and I could see the same soul in the eyes of a cow or a pig that I could in my dogs at home. And I just like made this like connection. I'm like, why? I would never eat my dog. Oh, and now I don't have to. Like, it's just like, this is amazing. So that was a really long way of answering that. Just any meal now that I feel like I'm present for, and I allow myself to put my phone down and just taste what I'm eating. Like I'm loving mango right now,
Mm.
and I do love bananas.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I was like, is she gonna say bananas?
Bananas is my favorite fruit. Yeah. Going from thinking that my life was going to be over and not really wanting to take the leap and then being like, oh my goodness, there's this whole other world out here that I didn't see for this like giant wall in my mind.
Thank you for sharing that. I love that story. Okay. And then one last chance for a story. So you can share this to whatever depth you're comfortable. I know that this podcast has been nothing but pearls from the darkness, but I would love for you to share one last pearl from either a darkness that you're currently moving through or a darkness that you've recently found yourself on the other side of that feels worth mentioning and sharing.
Mm, wow. Well, what's coming up right now is definitely going through my divorce. I got married for life 21 years ago.
Mm.
I never thought I would get a divorce. I couldn't even say the word. I would say that we're separating. Um, take a trial separation. Like I couldn't even put the word in my mouth. It's so shameful. And it's still not final, but it will be a year since we got started in May. And I'm starting to see myself again even more. Like I'm getting to know myself. And I was gonna stay in the relationship for my kids. And then one day I realized that I don't want my kids to model their future relationships based on this. I wouldn't want this relationship for my kids. And realizing that I had to be the bravest I have ever been in my whole life and trying to explain to my kids that I'm doing this for you, but I have to break what we have. And it seemed absolutely impossible. And the universe kept helping me though. How about now? Are you gonna stay now? How about now? How about now? How about now? No, you know, that's it. I am gone. But it's been seriously the hardest thing I've ever done. And also now I'm starting to see the end of the tunnel, and I can see that it's already better. It's already better for all of us. And it's hard, but it's good hard.
Oh, thank you. Thank you especially for sharing that. 'Cause as you know, yeah, I'm in the very like it's the 3 month mark has felt really big. And really, and when you asked me how was I doing, I was like, oh, I had a slow morning. Like, woke up and the grief hit me. Just, like it hits you, and you can't master the grief of it either. It's just observing and feeling in time. And I can't imagine with kids. Like, I have two cats, and like I can't explain to the cats like, oh, like you're probably never gonna see your dad again. And I felt so guilty. But like, I think about how I reacted when I was 7 or 8 years old. My parents got divorced, and it's funny because at first I was in shock. I was like, "What?" And then my sister started crying, so I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry now too." And God, like, my poor mom, my poor dad, it must have been so hard for them to go through it themselves and then have kids freaking out based on what we saw in movies and trying to impose like parent trap fantasies on top of that. And uh it's I so much respect for the parents out there. And like you said, in fact, I think you did it for your kids. Oh, you did do it because seeing my mom and my dad, or seeing my mom later in life, find marry my stepdad, they were so in love. And that was the first time I'd ever seen my mom in love, romantic, holding hands, kissing. Like I never saw that growing up. And that was so important for me to see. So, to any parent who's questioning and is listening, it's not just for you that you're doing it. You're doing it for generations, generations.
Goosebumps.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Well, Kristine, is there anything else that you feel that's on your heart that you want to share before we do our closing?
I just want to say thank you to you for having me here today and for doing this work. I really appreciate it so much, and it's an honor to share this time with you.
Hmm. Likewise. Oh, you as well. Thank you for sharing your story and just being willing to go through the fear, be courageous and break down the stereotype and just help people rewrite their own story. This is Addiction is so pervasive and we need more people like you.
Mm, Thank you. Likewise.
Yeah, I might cry. Christine, how can people find you? And I will link all of this in the show notes to anyone listening. But yeah, I would love for you to share how people can find you and your book and your work.
You. Well, I have KristineCasart.com, and Casart is with one S. I think for some reason, a lot of people think that it's two S's, and Christine with a K. And so I have a lot of my fun things going on there. And also you can go to Amazon now, which to me still feels so surreal. And you can type in The Unconventional Addict, and my book pops up. It's like, yeah. And I'm on Instagram, Kristine Casart as well. I would love, yeah, if anybody listening to this and they feel like, yeah, I might be an unconventional addict, reach out. I'd be happy to help you in any shape, in any form that I can. So please reach out.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so excited to watch your journey and see what other books you come out with and to read your book. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited to read your book too. I can already see it. It's right there next to you. It's just gonna become a little bit more tangible as time
Yeah,
goes on.
exactly. Oh, it's a funny, like the birthing process is really a thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I feel like right now I'm like living my second book. Like I'm in it right now.
Ooh.
I feel like the title is like The Unconventional Divorce or something like that. So I'm in it right now. So
Yeah, it's Frida Kahlo.
mhm.
One of my favorite quotes of her is my life is my art.
Mm.
Or like I think of another quote by Gandhi. Everyone was like Gandhi, like or this reporter was like, "Can I have a message? Like give me a message to send to the villagers." And he said, "My life is my message." So you're living that. All right, my friends, thank you for listening to this week's episode of the School of Whispers podcast. We have new episodes every other Monday, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss an episode. And if you would like to support this podcast, be sure to leave your rating, your review, and share with a friend. And I think that covered all the boxes there. So thank you for your support. Thank you for your beautiful listening ears. And again, your reminder, you're not alone. Community is here and it's waiting for you. You can never be a burden to any of us. So you can find my contact information in the show notes. You can find Kristine's and you can find those resources as well.